Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, the Hyperconscious Podcast is proudly sponsored by our friend and mentor, David Meltzer of the Playbook Podcast. He was kind enough to join us on episode 144 and 135.
Folks, it has become Kevin and I's mission in life to help you realize that the life of your dreams is right on the other side of you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Let us help you do that.
I rarely do these things twice in such a short amount of time, but you guys impress me. I believe in people that provide value and of our service. You two guys are on your way to huge fulfillment, purpose, and profitability, and I look forward to helping you both.
We appreciate that more than you know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. She is a historian, a voiceover artist, and she is the host of All Things in the Name of Love podcast. We are sitting down with Erica Risberg. How are you doing, Erica?
Oh, I am so honored to be on this show, and I'm super excited to share whatever comes through to help your listeners.
We are very excited to have you. Your podcast is a lot about asking why things are the way they are, and that is what Alan and myself are all about. So my first question to you, before we get into anything else, I want to know what your perspective on love is. Like, what is love? Not necessarily in a relationship, but in general, what does it mean to love? Going deep.
Okay, when we fully love ourselves and we're not listening to our head, but we're coming through the heart space, that's when we connect with divine energy, and that's when we know we're more than we think we are.
More than we think we are.
Can you go deeper into what is that knowing that we're more than we think we are? Like, what does that actually feel like, and how can you leverage that to live your best life?
Well, what it feels like is that my mind gets really quiet, which is rare. It's really nice. It's a really nice space to be in because I get this palpable, because I'm clairsentient, so I feel things and I sense things. So I sense that there's this energy that's coming into me that is just this warm, beautiful, peaceful sense that if I'm quiet and I'm just tuning into what my heart feels, I can get that. And there's no external that I need to feel that. I have to go in to feel it.
So I've been thinking and talking with someone very close to me a lot recently about intuition. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned acting from the heart rather than from the head, and that you're more than you think you are. How can you describe for our listeners, we talked a little bit about authenticity, and I think authenticity from my perspective, based on my current level of awareness, is a lot of like living from the heart rather than the ego. Can you go into that a little bit and how you stay your authentic self? Because I think Kevin and I are really starting to live in our truth a lot more and be more authentic and okay with being, our imperfect, perfect selves.
I love that. Well, for me, I'm a recovering academic.
Interesting.
and I'm from New England. So there's a lot of that Puritanism and that expectations of others that you're brought up to believe is what's real.
Right.
And so divesting myself of that and tuning into what my heart wants, it's a process. It's not something like you're one and done. It's a daily practice of what do what does my soul call me to do? And the only way that I personally can do it is by meditating often and actually talking to my head brain and saying, honey, no, it's okay. I can listen to my heart, because what tends to happen, especially at night when I'm sleeping, and this is a good tip for anyone who struggles with this, my mind loves to chatter when I'm sleeping, just loves it. And I'll wake up with these thoughts that make no sense. And I know it's what my head brain is trying to do is distract me from that deeper sense of that connection with my intuition, of my connection with my non-physical team and the divine. It's fascinating, because if I have a hurt, like my little girl, little backstory, when I was 6 months old, I was in traction because I had a dislocated hip. And 6 months after that, I was put in a body cast for 18 months. So my little girl has a lot of fear and a lot of, I'm terrified, this place isn't safe. And I've gone through multiple times of healing that part of me, because we are not separate from it. And the one that's with me right now is, it's not safe to be here, which I know is not true. My soul knows that I am safe regardless of what the external circumstances are. So I'm healing this slowly. And last night, my mind starts giving me words from Words with Friends. I'm like, what are you doing, mind? What are you doing? And I recognize it now as it's trying to protect me, because whenever your mind does that worry stuff, it's just trying to protect you. So I talk to it and say, okay, mind, it's okay. You're safe. You're safe. You don't have to protect me now. And usually within like 5 minutes, it'll calm down, and then I can tune in more deeply.
So
And that's a lot of practice.
I was going to ask about the practicing of that as well, but so you're a historian, right? You have your PhD, and you're also a voiceover artist, and you've been doing that for 10 plus years, or 10 or so years. How did you get into the space that you're at now in regards to mindfulness and being so in tune with your spirituality? Like, did something happen in order for that to shift in you? And, how was that shift for you?
Okay, two things. First thing was about 10 years ago, my father developed pancreatitis, and then he got a staph infection. And then he spent 3 months paralyzed in intensive care. And he was obese, and he didn't pay attention. He didn't express his emotions at all. And so through that journey of watching him trapped and not being able to communicate, it brought this awareness to me that, oh, geez, I've numbed myself out, because I'm a highly sensitive person, and we live in a violent culture. So that was my coping mechanism of just tuning myself out from my emotions, and then watching him die from tuning himself out from his emotions was it was a pretty massive wake-up call. I was like, oh, shoot, I can't do that to myself. So that's when I got into voiceovers. I was like, okay, so I had two dreams when I was a kid. One was to get a PhD, because I knew that was going to be hard. And then the second was to do voiceovers. And I was like, which one's going to be harder to do? I'll do the PhD first, because that's going to take more time. And then when he died, I was like, I still want to do the voiceovers. I have to do the voiceovers. So that's when I started getting into that. And I started doing a meditation through Mind Valley, where the founder, Vishen, had this 7-part meditation. It was like 12 minutes or something like that. And I started listening to that daily. And the point that stuck out with me was forgiveness. And there were people I forgave pretty much every day for like 2-3 months at a time, because I had that much frustration. And then, so that was part one of my awareness that something had to change, but I didn't know what. And so I said, okay, if I meditate, that'll help me. And then when the Paris bombings happened 4 years ago, something about that really flipped me out. I think it was because it was that particular, like the joy of dancing and celebrating and then getting killed, just something just flipped in me. And I just like, I can't do this anymore. this was, I can't allow myself to ingest violence and not respond to it anymore. And so I listened to a meditation, and at the end of it, I decided I took a vow of peace. And what I thought that meant was divesting myself of the external violence. So I stopped watching movies. I stopped reading action books. I stopped watching the news, and then I had all this free time.
Right.
What did I just do to myself? So for 6 months, I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? Unfortunately, out in Portland, I have this amazing resource called New Renaissance Bookstore. And if you have any inclination to any spirituality of any way, shape, or form, they have it. And so I started tuning into what resonated with me. And then I started working with an energetic healer who does something called body talk, which gets into your subconscious programming. And I've been doing that for 4 years. And it's fascinating to see how many layers peel off, because what I thought started out as, I'm just going to get rid of the violence on the outside. Well, yeah, what's on the out is in.
Right, because it's not just the violence on the outside, it's the way you're processing it consciously, subconsciously, and the way you're either expressing it or not expressing it. It's interesting you say forgiveness. And I kind of wanted to go into that a little bit because, again, a lot of our listeners, and myself included for sure, I think I've been unpacking a lot of shame from my past and different things that I went through, and it's really helped me heal in a lot of ways, and I want that for our listeners. So can you go into some of the ways that you forgave others and yourself and what that did for you?
Sure. Well, in the meditation, it was just visualizing someone that I felt hurt by and asking for forgiveness from them, and then forgiving them. What I have evolved to is a practice that's from a Hawaiian shaman called Ho'oponopono. And that roughly translates to, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And whenever I have something where I feel like there needs to be forgiveness, I will say Ho'oponopono internally, externally, until I feel the energy shifting, because it's so important to me that I don't carry any of that. I don't have to forget what they did, but until I forgive, I'm carrying that energy.
And that's affecting everything.
It's affecting everything.
Thoughts, feelings, actions, all of it.
Is there a difference, in your opinion, in your process between forgiving others and forgiving yourself? Because from the one-on-one clients that I've had, there's always this thing that they're holding on that they take blame for and they take fault for. And while I think ownership is unbelievably important and it's one of the fundamentals of success, I also think that you have to know when to let go of things that are no longer serving you. So from your experience, how do you forgive yourself?
Well, I do I put my hands on my heart and I inhale through my nose, exhale through my mouth, and say Ho'oponopono multiple times, and I'm compassionate.
What are you visualizing in that moment when you're forgiving yourself?
So if it's something like my little girl feels, I'll give an example, shame. So one of my aunt's boyfriends was an abuser, and he dumped beer on my head when I was 4, and then he ate my Easter bunny in front of me. He was a horrible human being. And so my little girl felt shame that she couldn't protect herself from him.
Right.
I was like, oh, honey, no, you don't carry that. You don't carry that. That's not you.
Right.
And so, and holding myself and visualizing what that 4-year-old me, and holding her in my head, like just, and actually physically reaching out like I'm holding this little 4-year-old self and loving her and saying, you don't have to carry this anymore. I'll take care of it, because she doesn't know. She doesn't have all of the skills. She doesn't have all the tools. And she's just 4. You know, you can't get mad at your younger self. your younger self doesn't know any better. She or he is just looking at what's going around and trying to figure out how to navigate this life. It's not her fault. It's not his fault. There's no blame. Shame is a human construct. It's not. God has never assigned blame. God has never assigned shame. Like any sin that we have is created by humans and our perception of it. It's not something that divine energy has for us. Divine energy is just love.
Powerful.
Very powerful.
Super
Yeah.
powerful.
I listened to a couple of your episodes. I like the solo ones when I'm doing research for guests because I want to know what you're all about and I want to hear your story. And I commend you for being vulnerable. That's something that I think you're
Thank
very
you.
good at being. Can you
Thank you.
talk to us? You're very welcome. Can you talk to us about what is the importance of vulnerability in not only your own life, but any relationship that you have? Because if you don't show up as your true authentic self, then what you're doing isn't sustainable. So can you talk to us
Right.
about vulnerability and how you leverage it and why it's important?
Oh yeah, so it's really funny because I was back east in September, and I've become this person who just shares what I'm thinking, which is amazing because I didn't used to do that, and so I just not even what I'm thinking, but I share what I'm feeling. And so I'm talking to some beautiful, amazing souls who I adore that are not where I am. And so with my cultural history background, I did theory. So I've learned how to listen to other people and figure out how they process information. And that's how I'm still being authentic, but I'm being authentic and being heard.
Right.
And I'm not stopping myself from sharing what I feel called to share. And I'm also recognizing if I use like, you're vibrating at a different level, or how's your soul doing? Or like, what about your non-physical team? People are going to shut me out.
Depending on who they are, yeah, and their level of
Right.
awareness.
So I have the who's my audience in terms of like, how am I showing up in a way that can help them to hear what I'm saying?
Right.
And in terms of my own life, what it's allowed me to do is feel my feelings fully feel. Like I had this one time where I was doing a healing with a mentor, and she said, no, I actually want you to feel the terror of your 6-month-old. Well, why would I do that? Right.
To release it.
But right, to release it. And for 90 seconds, I was doubled over in pain and fear and terror. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've never felt anything this scary in my, oh my gosh, I'm actually feeling all this. Oh my gosh, this is really crazy and amazing and powerful and scary and all that. And then after 90 seconds, it was gone. But I had to get to that point of actually fully feeling it. And now I don't have it anymore. Because what our brains say, the fear is, oh my gosh, we can't, this is too scary. Well, it's not going to kill you.
Right.
And I'm not saying that flippantly, but like none of the memories in your head are going to kill you. What they're going to do is help you heal.
So what I've often said on this podcast, and the listeners can attest to this, is whenever we're in deep emotional pain, we can either develop a virtue or escape into a vice. Now, that vice can be any sort of substance, or it can be a distraction, Netflix, whatever it is. When you are in deep emotional pain, what is a process? So I have a close person to me who is going through and trying to reprocess some difficult challenges of trauma. So what is some advice for her or anyone else out there listening that really wants to unpack some of the emotional trauma that maybe they once escaped, but they don't want to escape it anymore? They want to face it, they want to move past it, and they want to learn from it.
Well, the first thing I would suggest is doing inner child work, because that's where most of your trauma is going to be in this lifetime. The second thing I suggest, and I suggest very highly because it's the most effective modality I've ever come across, is body talk. because it gets to your subconscious stuff and it gets to your karmic stuff, and it just gets deeper than you can do on your own, and definitely don't do it alone. This is not a martyr thing. This is not I can do this, I don't need any help. No, you need help, because this is something that you need support, you need love, you need that compassion, and when you're doing it on your own, you can trip yourself up.
Can you go into what some of that body work from someone who's not... Sorry, there's like a crazy bug running around the... Kevin just went and got it. It was the most distracting thing ever. We were both trying to listen, but also like, oh my goodness.
Thing looked dangerous.
Right.
Thing looked dangerous.
I just
too.
pictured that. Remember AIM, that little GIF on AIM that had like the I don't have ADD, and it's like watching a piece of paper like fly by?
That was us. All right, we're back. We're back. We're back.
So the body work you said was the most, I think, important modality, or I forget what your exact phrasing was.
It's one of the most powerful modalities I've ever come across, and it's because the practitioners are really intuitive, and they can tune into what pain your body is holding. So, for example, let's say my hip is hurting. Well, my practitioner will go in and say, okay, your hip chakra is, what does that mean, and what is it holding on to? And then let's release that. And it could be like, well, see, hips are protection. So I'm trying to protect myself against something. If my storyline is this place isn't safe,
right,
of course my hips are going to hurt. And so how she will help deprogram the subconscious stories running in my head. And that way my body will feel, it won't feel the pain. And the practitioner I use also goes into karmic stuff and ancestral things that I may be carrying through my DNA, and she helps release that. So why I say it's important to have help is because, yes, you can sit with your inner child and forgive them for whatever you think they did or didn't do. In addition, it may be deeper than that. Like I've had an energetic connection to my mom that's been unhealthy. So my practitioner helped me cut that energetic cord, so now I can have a relationship with my mom and not feel the massive guilt or the tension that I felt for decades, because that energy isn't there anymore.
Erica, one of the things so you're a podcaster, so you get to talk to many different people. And one of the things that for Alan and myself, I think I can say this confidently for both of us, being able to talk to different people really helps expand your beliefs. And I love the fact that you said sometimes if you're in a certain room, you have to choose your words kind of carefully because not everybody will understand and believe what you're saying. And I'm also proof of that, because at one point, what we're talking about now I would be so closed off to it because I didn't have the depth. I wasn't that many layers deep. Did you have any resistance to learning these things and practicing these things? Like, what were your initial thoughts when you started getting into the kind of energetic healing and that sort of stuff? Was there any resistance with it?
Fortunately for me, I'm innately curious. I've been curious since I was a little kid. My favorite story was Rudyard Kipling's Elephant's Child, because I was the Elephant's Child. I was just so like, I want to ask questions. I want to know this. I want to know that. And that's actually translated into kind of an obsessive compulsive level when I do research, because I get so curious. I want to know everything. So like for that, no, I'm like, what's this? Oh, this is curious. What does this do? I have to find out what, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I love this because I'm not scared of that. That's one blessing I have, is that I have that almost innocent quality of curiosity still.
There's something that I wanted to share with you. I posted this literally earlier today, and it's funny that you just mentioned that curiosity. Here we go. So, fascination is one step beyond interest. Interested people want to know if it works. Fascinated people want to know how and why it works. Learn how to turn frustration into fascination. You will learn more being fascinated by life than being frustrated by it. Develop a childlike fascination with life and people. I literally just wrote that this morning, so I felt compelled to share that with you. I literally.
Yeah.
So that's Jim Rohn, by the way. I did not write that, everybody. That was Jim Rohn.
Beautiful.
Right? It was beautiful, right? So Jim Rohn is one of my favorites.
Is there a downside of? So we always say you're very aware, right? You are hyper-conscious. You are acutely aware of why things are the way they are and how you can fix them and why you're taking the actions you're taking. Has there ever been a downside for, like, I'm sure if you feel other people's energy, that can be to a detriment sometimes. And obviously I don't want to focus on the negativity, but is there a downside of being so curious? And have you found any of those?
Well, there's not a downside to being curious, but there is a downside to being open. So, this is beautiful because so historian museums. I always felt tired going into museums, and I never understood why. And about a couple weeks ago, I had to do this research project at the Oregon Historical Society, which is near me, and within 20 minutes, I am yawning. I am exhausted, and I hadn't been when I walked in, and I couldn't figure out. And then all of a sudden, I had this awareness. Oh my gosh! Wait a minute. This is a repository for people's energies. Because if you're looking at an artifact, well, somebody owned it. Who was that person, and what was the energetic charge they left behind? And it's subtle because you can't see it. But so I wrote to my mentor. I'm like, okay, so what do I do? Because I have to do this research project, and I'm going to be in this building for, I wrapped it up, but I was in the building for like 2 weeks. I'm going, oh God, I don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, okay, so you're going to get obsidian, which blocks negative energy. And I'm going, what? Crystals? Really? Seriously? I mean, because I still have that skepticism because I have that historian background. I'm like, okay, but you know what? Nothing else is working. Get a sage stick and sage yourself to clear the negativity out. Call on Archangel Michael to clear the space of negativity and keep you safe. And my head brain is going, this is really crazy. I don't think this is going to work, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because it's, that's what I still have that Puritanism in me. And then I did it, and I felt fine. I was like, oh, Jesus.
The academic in you was like, I don't know about this.
Right.
But your intuition was like, let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a shot. And it worked. And I was just like, whoa, okay, I can't dismiss this anymore. Because it's like, even my head was like, oh shit, I can't. All right, I don't have anything to refute this because it worked. And it was just really beautiful because now it's okay, so when I leave the house, I just put obsidian in my pocket. Just not that I'm expecting anything to happen, and because I'm so sensitive, I just don't want to pick anything up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you are enjoying this episode where we were lucky enough to sit down with the amazing Erica Risberg. Just a friendly reminder, if you're ready to make 2020 the best year of your life, Alan and myself both have some coaching slots open. I love to coach on podcasting as well as peak performance mindset, and Alan coaches on fitness, peak performance, and business. So if you're ready to get the body of your dreams, if you're ready to make 2020 the year that you finally launch that podcast that you've been dreaming of, please reach out to Alan or myself, and we would love to help you. Let's get back into the episode.
So earlier in this conversation, you said that you made a declaration to live in peace. Now, your awareness of what that meant has shifted and evolved.
Oh, yeah.
You have a podcast called All Things in the Name of Love. Now, I know that you want to live in love and in peace. I can sense that from you, and I love that. But we also need to understand the other side of that, the antithesis. So from your perspective, what is fear, and why do people have so much of it?
Fear is the absence of love. And the reason why most people have it is because they don't know they're connected. They feel they are separate. from the divine. They don't realize that they are the divine. When you say I am, that's a confirmation. That's you're an expression of the energy of the divine. So I say I am love. I am peace. I am play. I am joy. And when you say that, it's an expression, and you feel your energy shift a little. And I know this is probably a little weird for people, but we're energetic beings. If on a quantum level, you look at quantum physics, everything is energy. My desk is the same energy as me. It's just manifesting as something else in the third dimension. Mm-hmm. So we're all energetic beings. So how you express that? Do you want to, and consciously, it's really easy. You can say, I am joy, I am peace. It's when the subconscious is disconnected from the conscious self, and that's where you have to do the work.
What do you tell people? So a lot of times I'll talk to people and they'll say, I'm afraid of love and I'm afraid of putting my trust in other people because they have had negative experiences with that, as we all have, right? I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people?
Go within. Because if you think it's somebody else's purpose to fill you with love, that's on you. It's not on them.
Right.
Because I know this from my own experience. And as an adult, it doesn't look like it, but as a 6-month-old, I had abuse. Right? I was in traction. At 6 months old, I can't differentiate. So trusting has been really hard for me. And it's not like people are the ones I have trouble trusting. I trust animals, I trust trees, I trust bees, I trust like anything that's not human, I have no problem trusting. And through this process of healing myself, because it is a journey of healing myself, I'm trusting myself. And through that trusting of myself, I can then open to the love of the divine, because if I'm trusting myself, I'm trusting the process, I'm trusting divine energy.
What about self-love? So I think that, and this might be not argued, but this might not be most people's thoughts. But for me, I think that self-love and self-discipline kind of go hand in hand. If you're always letting yourself down with your words and your actions, if they're not congruent, I feel like it's harder for you to respect yourself because you're not holding up the promises to yourself. But in your opinion, how can somebody who has been struggling with practicing self-love or looking at themselves in a positive light, how can they practice that more and get conscious of the way they're actually seeing themselves?
It's a process. I think one of the best things you can do is start removing distractions and addictions.
Powerful. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That was just
No. It's but
I love
that. I've had a fair amount of addictions. And I'll do a brief description. So 20 years ago, I gave up alcohol because my body was just like, you're done. Then 5 years ago, it was my doctor said, you're giving up coffee. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, right? But it took me 6 months. It took me 6 months of gently cutting it into decaf. And after 6 months, my body was like, I don't really need this anymore. Instead of saying, I'm going cold turkey, this is going to happen. Like, that's one of the things in our society that's like, okay, if you see an addiction, the inclination is to just go cold turkey. Oh, yeah. And that doesn't work. You have to show yourself compassion. Like, if you're drinking 10 cups of coffee a day, go to 9. Like, do this gradually, your body can't handle that kind of stress. So it was coffee, then it was beef, and I ate beef 3 days a week. So beef was like, body was just like, I don't like this anymore. And that's because I tuned out the distractions and I could hear my body. And then since then, it's been sugar, which was a pain in the ass to get out of. Soy, corn, gluten, that was a pain in the ass to get off of. But at least there's Simple Mills crackers, thank God.
How do you know when something's not serving you anymore and you need to get rid of it? Like, how does that intuition, how does one connect with that? Because I have an example recently that I literally had to go and like put it out of sight, out of mind, because I just know it's not serving my greatest purpose anymore. So how does someone know?
How do you feel? Like an exercise that I've done with myself and I've suggested to some friends is do a food journal for a week. Write down what you've eaten, half hour after you've eaten it, how do you feel? And that starts to get you in tune with your body. Mm. Because most people aren't like, I'll take an antacid and still eat the fried food no, you don't. Like, that's not a good system.
Band-Aids,
like,
yeah.
Right. And so 6 months ago, I gave up chicken. And I was like, but Bonnie, what are you doing? But I was like, yeah, I just don't like chicken anymore. It was my tongue. I was like, really? My tongue is telling me this? This is fascinating. Tongue was just like, yeah, I don't like the consistency of this. It's not like my tongue has a consciousness now. Wait a minute. This is really confusing because I'm still thinking that, I am in control here. But no, your tongue has its own consciousness and it will tell you what it wants if you're listening. So now I'm almost completely plant-based. And I never, if you said that 6 months ago, I would have laughed at you. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Why? Well, it's because my body wants it. I'm not, I'm just like, okay, body, you're just telling me what you want because I have no idea. I have expectations. I have addictions. I have preferences. I have habits. And if they're not serving you, I have to stop. But it is a process of just tuning in and just start with the food journal and just write how you feel.
How do you gauge? So do you gauge this is something that Alan and I used to talk about. I just used to say, yeah, it feels right. And Alan would be like, what do you mean it feels right? And I would say, I don't know how to explain it. It just feels right.
I was a little less in tune with my intuition back then.
How do you go about opening and expanding your relationships with people? Is that on a feeling basis or on a thinking basis?
So we have clear abilities. So there's clear audience. So if you hear tunes and nothing's playing, that's clear audience. Clairsentient is feeling. Claircognizant is knowing. And clairvoyance is seeing in the future, the vision stuff. I am ridiculously clairsentient, so I feel stuff. To a lesser extent, I'm claircognizant. I just know things, things come in. And the clairaudient I've had since I was, seriously 5. Because I always get tunes. Some tunes will come in, when I feel a situation happening, and, song will pop in. I'm like, really? Oh, and it gives me this deeper understanding of what's going on, and it's really fascinating because I love lyrics and I've always paid attention to them, and so they're innate in us, and some are stronger than others, and the process of tuning into that is a process of getting rid of the distractions.
Right. What are some common distractions that people should really start to try to get rid of? Because I'm an engineer, electrical computer engineer, so I always think of it as I took a signals analysis class, and it's you got to get rid of the noise. If you want to trust your own intuition, that's your signal. You have to get rid of all the noise. And honestly, in today's world, we have more noise than ever. Yeah. It is brutal. So
I know. So I don't turn on my phone until 9:00 in the morning. I just don't. I don't care what's happening. I just don't turn it on because I want to do I want to have my morning chai. I want to do my spiritual practices. I want to be present for myself. And so I actually don't really, I appreciate my phone. I don't really use it that much. Because it's such a distraction. I deleted Facebook off my phone because I knew I was just going to play on my phone all day. And I was like, why? What is this serving me? Oh, this is serving me for distracting myself from my work.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That's how it's serving you. And that's why you keep doing it.
Right. And I mean, it's like, I'll seem as if I have something to do, like healing this particular infant wound that I still have to deal with. I haven't ignored it. It's a process. It's a few days. And so, like, day one, if I have like a big thing in my subconscious that I know is really big, and I just have to allow myself the opportunity to like get to the place where my guards aren't up and I can heal it, I'll watch myself distract myself. I'll do stuff like I'll clean my bathroom. I'm like, really? Because anything, please, dear God, anything, but don't let me sit with myself and actually look at the wound.
It's the pain avoidance tendency.
Oh, yeah.
It's because we know that mirror is going to be painful, that facing that thing. It's tough.
Is that why, in your opinion, Erica? So I always tell people this. A lot of people will come and they'll say, I'm really having trouble sleeping at night. And I usually say, yeah, usually the time when we go to bed is the only time where there's silence throughout the entire day. It's the only time where you have time to sit there in darkness and reflect. In your opinion, is that because of all the distractions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like, you should have your phone off an hour before you go to bed.
How do
go
ahead? Sorry.
So you can read, so you can be quiet. Like the other night, I didn't feel like reading, so I just listened to a meditation. I had such a great night of sleep.
A lot of people say that I read a lot. I love to read. I literally love to read, and I can tell that you do as well. Especially as a historian, I'm sure that I could pick your brain on history, but that's a whole nother episode. I've actually been holding myself back from asking you a lot of that just because I know that's probably just my own itch. So a lot of people say, why do you love to read so much? I get distracted when I'm trying to read a book. And I think part of the reason why they get distracted is because they have so much to process, and they're not consistently. I often say this all the time, and I got this from Wayne Dyer a while back, and it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. So for me, I'm constantly taking little 20-minute power naps, or I'll throw in earplugs when I'm in the shower. Like, I'm weird. I'm a total weirdo.
Oh, yeah?
And I always want the silence between the notes because the notes aren't good if I don't have that self-care in between. And so for anyone out there, I just felt compelled to say this, like, if you feel like you can't read a page of a book or two without your mind going crazy, it's probably because you're not creating that silence in between the notes to really process. And I think a lot of us are evolving mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually in the silence between the notes. But if you don't do that, what Kevin said is going to happen right before bed. It's your brain's going to try to catch up and process everything like all at once, and then you're going to be like, I have insomnia. No, you just haven't taken a minute to process your day yet.
Remember that one time when you were 12 and you peed your pants and everybody saw you? Let's think about that right now.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. What is your spirituality habits? Like, what do you do for meditation? What do you do for gratitude? Because Alan and I are really trying to get better about that. We've both started to meditate more, trying to have positive visualizations for the future and affirmations. What do you do on a daily basis, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, I know, because I haven't, because I've been really busy this week, but if I don't meditate twice a day for like 20 minutes, I get kind of cranky. That's just where I'm at right now. And sometimes if I give myself the glorious space of a whole hour of meditation, I'm in a completely different space. And that seems like a lot of time, but how much time are you watching YouTube or Netflix?
Right.
Or, just, and I'm not judging. This is not a judgment call. This is just like what brings me joy. And I mean real joy. I'm not talking about superficial stuff. Like what makes me ridiculously happy to be alive. And meditation allows me to feel that. So that's number one. If I have an energy healing session with my mentor, I listen to that. There's a process that I use that's on YouTube called Cortises, Cortises, and it's tapping your left and right brain and balancing them. So you have a better sense of like, you're just more even, which is pretty cool. I sage myself in my space a couple days. Well, I sage myself twice a day minimum, like taking a sage incense stick and wafting it around me and just clearing the energy around me. And then I sage my space to clear out any negative energy that may have come in my space a couple times a week. And I bring my obsidian with me. And when I do gratitude, this is a really cool new practice I'm doing, because I say gratitude with every meal. I bless every meal. I thank everyone involved in the process, of everyone and thing involved in the process, because I didn't grow it, or provide the electricity for the stove or the oven. So I'm really grateful for everyone and thing, and then I ask for the meal to nourish me and give me all the vitality I need to be the highest expression of who I am. And that just brings me really present into my meals. And then this is a fun thing I do, because it feels like it's a great energy. So there's an Indian goddess named Lakshmi, and she's the goddess of prosperity. And then her companion is Ganesh, who is sitting on my desk right now and looking at me like, you better say something about me. Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. And so I thank her. It's not just like, thank you for this. It's like, thank you so much. I have a hydro flask sitting in front of me that's full of alkaline water that lets me nourish myself and take care of myself. So I'm really getting into the thanking. It's not just like, thank you for this, thank you for that. Oh my gosh, I have electricity. I get to talk to you on a phone that like 10 years didn't exist, right? 10 years ago, this did not exist at this level. And so what a gift this is, that I can talk to you.
Right.
And that's like really deepening the gratitude from just that you want to feel grateful, you want to feel thankful, and just getting into the full expression, like eat your meals more slowly, actually feel and smell and taste everything you're eating, like bringing yourself more into a sensual, and by sensual I mean fully engaging your senses way to experience life, is really fascinating.
For the listeners, there really is very few practical things you can do that will make a bigger difference in your life than gratitude. I recently started dating this incredible woman, and we do a gratitude practice every night before bed. We send a voice message to each other about the 3 things or more. She sent me 7 last night, which was awesome, that we're most grateful for about each other that day. And I've been very, very committed to that. We haven't missed a single day. But I can tell that I'm more grateful. I'm happier. I'm healthier. I'm more productive. I'm more fulfilled throughout the day. And more importantly, I'm focused on the things she's doing well and wonderfully, and not any of the negatives. So gratitude practice is huge. So Kevin and I are coming up on it, and you have survived the Hyperconscious Gauntlet, but there are 2 more questions that we ask every single guest, and mine is about to come. So I wear a North Star around my neck. It's a necklace. And to me, I say a purpose prayer at least once a day. I have for the last 5 years. And to me, that's the part of me that never changes, the part that's most constant. So this is a guide. We all, I believe, have a part of us, even though we grow and evolve and change, that never changed. So what about you never changed?
My belief that we're not separate.
Hammered it.
Right.
Yeah.
Hammered
Well,
it.
no, really, like my little girl knew, like I could walk into a gaggle of geese and be friends with them and not see that they were any different from me. And this is really awesome, because last week I was like, I knew that about me, but then all of a sudden it hit my adult self. I was like, oh my gosh, I got it. We're not separate. We are not separate. This is so amazing. And my little 4-year-old was like,
Right.
I was right. I knew I was right. I knew I was right. And she was carrying on. And honestly, it was like this little 5-year-old self in me was just so like that proven right. You know? Like, I know, and all these people that raised me had no idea what they were talking about. I knew I was right. And blah, 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 blah. And that energy stuck with me for an hour. And I was like, wow, she was pissed. That little me was really pissed for all those people who told her that lie.
So born connected,
Separate.
and then taught
Yeah,
to
born
be separate.
connected.
taught to be
Yep.
separate. Yeah, that's absolute fire. Ego consciousness is a whole nother thing, but now Kevin's question is coming.
I have a question too, Erica. So,
Yes, Kevin.
so usually I'm actually going to switch it up because I think I want to change up the way I'm wording the question because it will then be more of an affirmation rather than a question. So, I think we all have a limited time here, and we get to do what we want. Hopefully, that's what we're doing. What are you going to accomplish before you die?
Well, my hope and intention is to help everyone who's open to it to awaken to who they really are.
You're doing that with us for sure.
Yeah.
This is
Thank
a
you.
very explorative episode for Alan and myself because this isn't something that we're super practiced in. We're not super
A couple of bros
Yeah, we're-
awakening.
right,
That's the name
right.
of this episode, Bros Being Awakened.
but I want to make sure that we do express gratitude towards you because
Thank you.
this is, like I said, when we first started talking to David Meltzer, he would say stuff about like you just have to allow things into your life, and me and Alan would be like, I don't know what that means. How do I? Can I go to the gym and allow? Like, how do I lift that?
Right.
And the more we're learning, and the deeper we become, and the more layers that we're able to go within, we start figuring out like, you know what, this is starting to make a lot of sense.
Right.
Yes.
And it's working.
And it's working. So
Right.
for the listeners, if there's any bit of you that is closed off to any of this, Alan and myself would have been too a year ago.
Right.
And the more we surround ourselves with this, and we talk about energy all the time, the more it makes sense to us. So I do want to thank you for that, Erica, and I want to make sure that you get a chance to tell people where they can find you, they can find more about you, listen to your podcast, and all of that happy jazz.
Okay, so my podcast is All Things in the Name of Love. It is on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. You can find me on Facebook. I have a page for All Things in the Name of Love. On LinkedIn, I'm Erica Risberg. And on Twitter, I'm Erica's VOs. And on Instagram, I'm Dr. Erica Risberg.
Can you please, let's spell Risberg for them. So.
Sure. It's RIS as in Sam, B as in boy, ERG.
Perfect.
I'll make sure I link those things in the description as well so they can find you. I want
Thank
to, so if you only had 10 seconds, right? Say we were on this call for 10 seconds and you could impart wisdom, 10 seconds worth of wisdom, what would that wisdom sound like?
Love yourself for who you really are.
I hammered it again.
Yeah.
Hammered it again.
Strong work. Strong work. I remember Kevin's first question at the beginning. You literally had such a concise, wise answer. We're both like,
Yeah.
oh,
We're-
okay, next question.
We're overmatched here. This is going to be a good one.
Right. Thank you so much for coming on the
thank
show. This has
you.
been
We
wonderful.
appreciate you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, follow up with Erica. She is amazing. She is definitely expanding our consciousness, and we are going to become more hyper-conscious because of this podcast. Thank you so much, Erica.
Talk soon.
Oh, thank you both so much. Take care.